So, as one dies, another arrives.
Yes,
the announcement,
the king is dead, long live the king.
of a new club for next season. We will get to the demise of the old one, which, of course, is as we all expected, but still.
I was shocked.
No less, no less damning on the whole process of what's going on with the Gold Coast. We will get to that. But firstly, Costas, the arrival of a new club in Western Sydney. I think we all support the concept, but the timing of it is...
Well, the timing's unbelievably bad. I think they just took too long to rush, if you know what I mean. If they were going to rush, they should have rushed a long time ago, told us it was going to happen, worked out, maybe it's 11, maybe it's 10 teams, we don't know, and then let Gold Coast go. But what do they do? And it's the finals. What are they doing? You know, the attention should be the finals.
The timing is bizarre. As we saw with the initial announcement on the stripping of the licence off Clive Palmer, the day before the Socceroos played a World Cup qualifier. Now, in the midst of the final series, here we are having this announcement that's completely overshadowed everything else as well. Seb, before we get into the timing of it, I think everybody's for the idea of it, for the concept of a team in Western Sydney.
We are. We definitely all accept that a team in Western Sydney is long overdue. It's the largest, most populated area in Australia that doesn't have a team, because Sydney FC is not the team of Western Sydney, and we've all been banging on about that for long enough. So if you can just frame the argument as Western Sydney now has a team, that's a great thing. That's a wonderful thing, long overdue. Boy, oh boy, could you pick a worse way to go about it, Costas?
Well,
I mean,
you're a newsman. You're a newsman.
Absolutely.
And it's all news. You know, if it's an important and massive piece of news, why are we throwing it in the blender with everything else that's going on? Why are we doing it earlier?
This is not the first time, as Scott intimated. This happens time and time again. My hunch on why it happened yesterday isn't so much about the FFA as it was so much about who else was at that presentation, and that was our Honourable Prime Minister. And as they came into Western Sydney bearing gifts, namely $8 million to football.
Yep, we've got to give something back.
Exactly, and they wanted to go with it then and there. So that was my certain feeling, that I think the FFA possibly wanted to hold on to it a bit, but when $8 million comes, you got to take it.
Will it work or will it not work? Let's take a little listen to the thoughts of Ben Buckley.
Well, we're very confident of the business plan that we've put together. The FFA, as I've said, will make the initial capital investment and will be the financial underwriter of the club in the first 2 to 3 years. We will explore a community ownership model. We think that we can use this club as a benchmark that others may want to follow in time by offering some investment into the club from local investments or from members or from the local community. Our projections are within a 2 to 3 year period we would like to see the ownership transition to either a community-owned model or to have sufficient private investors to come in and support the club at that point in time. So the time horizon is 2 to 3 years, but we'll assess that as the team evolves.
Was Clive Palmer on the phone?
I was wondering yeah, I'll be home. Milk? Yeah, I'll bring milk. Okay.
So my take on this, boys, I've got a question for both of you. Where was this money when the Sydney Rovers needed it?
Where was the money when North Queensland Fury needed it? Where was the money when Gold Coast United needed it?
It is the $1 million question, literally.
Well, okay, and Sydney Rovers didn't deserve it because that was a slipshod effort.
Sure.
Gold Coast were falling apart. You don't sink money into something that's falling apart with a billionaire who's not funding it. And Western Sydney, no, they've got to fund it, don't they?
My argument, though, is Western Sydney Rovers, it's kind of almost irrelevant. It's the same thing. Yeah. The problem with Sydney Rovers was they couldn't find the money. All right, fair enough. So then you go back to the FFA and go, will you fund it? And they repeatedly said, we will not fund it.
That's because they did have a committee. They had the people.
Absolutely. And their job was to go and find the cash. They couldn't find it.
And so the question is, where's the money come from, Seth?
Exactly.
Where has it come from?
Well, we've got $4 million in government money that's been set aside for this club. And that,
where did that money come from?
From the government.
Yeah? You want to know where it came from? It was just a redirection of funds that had already been committed to the Riverstone project.
What's the
which fell over, which was to be Football New South Wales's new headquarters. That deal fell over. But it is entirely true. There was a federal government guarantee at the last election of $5 million for the Riverstone project. That $5 million is now the capital to establish this club. So in effect, Football New South Wales
is funding it.
Are funding this club. So my question further to that is, what happens after that when you're not getting $5 million every year?
They're getting $3 million to redevelop Park Lee. and they're getting another $1 million to put into the W League. So it's not a strict, as you're saying.
So there's
there is an element.
But the basis of that money is coming from
it was for football, so it's not new money. It's not new money. I can agree with you.
At the same time, you've got to do the little finger wish thing there. But listen, the other thing he didn't mention, and this is the big gap in what he said. Yeah, great, we love what you've said, Ben, but you know what you forgot to talk about? You've got a massive well pool of old school support in that area. The Sydney United fans, you've got the Marconi fans, you've got the Olympic fans. They're the people you want to bring back to the game. And that's got to be the core. That's what Western Sydney, I've got a name for it. The Nationals. Do you like the name? The Western Sydney Nationals? National League?
Bit political
National League?
Western Sydney, yeah, I don't know if the Labor funding.
Oh yeah, there is that thing too, isn't it? The Nationals.
Ben Clive Palmer.
Can I nominate
Western Sydney old schoolers?
I want to nominate the Wombats.
Oh, I like
Wombats?
The Western Sydney Wombats.
I like that.
The Costas has a theory on
that. You know, that's good actually, because the Wombat, you know, it was very slow to get there, but once it's there, the Wombat in the league, it's a hump. You know, it's a big hurdle to get over. They might be, you know, they might prove a problem to people.
Seb, have you got a suggestion for a name?
I'm big on the Wanderers, and that's because of the historical meaning behind it. When the first game of football documented, I know there's some debate over that, but what we all can agree was probably the first game ever played at the Kings Club by the team called the Wanderers in Parramatta, in the heart of Western Sydney, where the team's probably going to be based. Make it the Wanderers.
I can say that, therefore, that won't happen because it makes a lot of sense.
So we know where the money's coming from initially, but let's take another listen to Ben Buckley on the autonomy of the club and who's actually going to be running it.
The club will have its own CEO, its own management team. It will have its own board of directors who will be appointed over the coming few weeks and in the next month. So whilst the FFA will be the ultimate owner of the club in the first instance, the club will have its own identity and its own management and governance team. The business model of the club obviously will have its own sponsorship, it will have its own membership receipts, its own gate receipts, it will get grants from the FFA, as all of our clubs do, and those funding, that income will be used to run the club. They will make the decisions over coaches, they'll make the decisions over players, they'll make the decisions over the colours of the team. So the club will have, you know, it will run and operate like every other club in the Hyundai A-League.
That was security trying to stop Clive Palmer getting He also went on to mention that the club won't get any specific help. We know the AFL, when they expanded into all these territories, have given certain concessions and so on, but he said it's a level playing field with this new Western Sydney team, whatever they're going to be called. My question with it is the funding. Simply what happens after this? So we know that they were very lucky they got this money, but it's only going to last, you know, a really short period of time. What happens after the first year or so?
I actually don't mind this. I know this might sound a bit contradictory, but I don't mind that the FFA is owning the club, because then they have the moral responsibility to keep it going until
they also have to find the money
can be found. Well, they do, but I think they will. And let's be honest, if push comes to shove, it still can be Frank Lowy's money. Because they've given birth to it, it's their responsibility now. It's not the responsibility of a private investor. The moral and ethical responsibility, and possibly even the legal one, Costas, you can fill us in on that, falls onto the FFA.
Yeah, and they could be. And we've got the name. The Western Sydney Westfield Wanderers. There you go.
Yes, it's sponsored. For me, on the surface, just to get back to the timing of the whole thing, it looks like the last roll of the dice by a desperate gambler. I mean, the TV deal, we understand, is going to be pushed forward to be in place. This was part of that. The TV deal will be in place for the start of the commencement of the next season. This was the last egg in the Easter basket, really.
So they needed
it either works or it doesn't work.
They needed a 10th team. Is that what you're saying?
It's not a good look to take to the market. It's not a good look to take to the AFC. You're selling your TV deal. You need the team.
It really is the last resort, isn't it? It
either works or the league collapses. That's my opinion. If this falls, the league falls.
I'm not
really
convinced.
Do you think the whole league can
absolutely
fall?
Well, the leagues seem to function all right at 8 teams.
This was the last frontier, the final thing that they had in their basket, really.
I don't think it'll be the death of the league. I don't think it's the league's Vietnam.
No, but it's that.
What you're saying.
But it's that important that it succeeds, is what I'm saying. It simply must succeed.
Well, if it doesn't, here's the problem. If it doesn't, how do they ever rejig it?
You can't. You've already lost the Gold Coast. You've already lost far north Queensland. If you lose Western Sydney as a market, you're in a hell of a trouble.
And let's not forget, you haven't just taken teams out of those markets, you've burned them. You've set fire to them. You've turned around and firebombed them and said, we're not going there for
scorched earth.
So talking about which, what is the decision? The announcement today formalised, by the way, that Gold Coast will not be in the competition next year. The PFA have come out very strongly in response to saying this affects the fans, it affects the livelihood of players and support staff, and they said never again do we want to see this happen. It's happened all too regularly. Two geysers of teams in New Zealand, the Fury, the Gold Coast. We're talking almost a team a season over the history of the A-League has collapsed.
Well, you're right, and the problem is, of course, we've got, as you say, you've got players, you've got people who have invested in the game, be they committee members, be they the ball, whatever. And we're scorching the earth, aren't we, as we retreat. So you're right, Scotty, we have to make Western Sydney work. And I think what we all got to do is leave here and go to our place of worship and light a candle or whatever and say a prayer, because this is, I don't think the league will fail, but I don't think it's very good if we can't get Western Sydney to work.
It's really dangerous territory we've wandered into, and that's my big concern. Is I think Scott hit it right on the head. This is our last go at it, and what's happened up at Gold Coast just really, it's demoralising when you think back to the optimism that preceded expansion. And I think back to that press conference that Ben Buckley hailed, that Queensland was a new frontier of football.
And the timing was right, Seb.
Football.
Every time we've heard this timing is right. We heard the timing was right on the Gold Coast. We heard the timing was right at Townsville. Now we hear the timing is right in Sydney. Well, the timing's been wrong in the last, or the way it's been done.
And why can't the FFA come out and actually say, you know what, we made some cataclysmic mistakes? Why is everything cloaked in this positive PR spin that we are so disengaged from? We're not buying it. We are not buying what they've done.
And that's the key. You need the fans to buy it. You really do.
Exactly. And we're also passionate about the game in this country. But that passion can be, you know, once you kill that love for those clubs, the people in those areas, you do.
Can I make a suggestion? What they need, I think, now is the FFA needs to spend more money. They need to go and get one of Lucas Neal, Tim Cahill or Mark Schwarzer, and they need to spend whatever it takes to get them back at the end of the current league season where they are, and they need to come back and be the face of the club.
Absolutely.
You need to make a really big...
There cannot be anything... And a great point I thought was raised by David Hill, the TV mogul, recently. When he said, when he was asked, actually it was on Eddie Maguire's show, and he said, what's missing in Australian football? And he goes, heroes. And I thought that's so true. When kids can watch their hero in the flesh,
well, that was the idea of Harry,
game, which is the idea of Harry and Brett. And we've actually, how much influence has that put into the league, and how good has that been? We need another massive hit at Western Sydney.